Greetings builders, Daniel here and welcome to another top 3 video, where every week I choose a topic and show you my 3 favorite builds of it. In today's team is for those who like to destroy big bosses in less than a second. I'm talking about the boss killer builds, and if you wanna try any of those you can find links for POBs and complete guides in the video description. And if this video helps you, please leave a thumbs up to support the channel. Thank you very much and let's get into it! Let's start with this amazing build that is one of the best that I've played in many leagues, the Archmage Ice Nova Hierophant with the Templar class. This build stacks as much mana as possible to take advantage of the Archmage support gem that grants up to 19% of your mana as extra lightning damage. The skill of choice was the Transfigured gem Ice Nova of Frostbolts that deals a lot more damage when casted near a Frostbolt. And to make things smoother, we're using the Kitava's helmet to automatically cast the Frostbolts for us. To visit the pros of this build, I would start with its boss damage. All of those overlapping Ice Novas on countless Frostbolts cause bosses to die like simple monsters. The clear speed is awesome as well. With the help of Frostblink of Wintry Blast, we can zoom through maps very fast while casting Ice Novas in all directions. It's just amazing. Now, to visit the cons, I'll start saying that this build isn't cheap. It needs a few divine orbs to work properly. Another issue is that you must have extra mana in all pieces of equipment, and that might make the gearing process a little harder. Now, talking about the budget, as mentioned before, this build isn't cheap. You need to invest at least 10 divine orbs to make it work. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipment that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold by other players. You only need 2 mandatory unique items for this build. The first and most important is the Kitava's helmet that triggers socketed gems when you use at least 100 mana in one cast. This makes the Frostbolts needed to be casted automatically for a lot smoother clear speed. Next, we also need the Anathema ring that causes our curse limit to be the same as our maximum power charges, in this case 4. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. We're just super fast and our Ice Novas are all over the place the whole time. You won't even have the chance to see the enemies before they get obliterated. The boss damage is also amazing and deserves 10 out of 10. It's just so many overlapping Ice Novas being casted on countless Frostbolts that the bosses won't even have the chance to survive over than 2 seconds. For this survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. It not only have a big pool of life and energy shield, but also 50% of the damage is taken from mana before life. And as you know, we have a lot of mana on this build. We also hit enemies so many times per second that the instant leash causes your life to be full almost 100% of the time. Next, we have this OP build that is the master of the shotgun effect, the Venom Gyre Deadeye with the Ranger class. Venom Gyre is a very interesting skill which fires a projectile that hits enemies and returns to you, piercing and dealing damage to everything on its path. When the projectile successfully returns to you, you can keep and stack them up to 30 times, and they will all be released at once when you use the Whirling Blades movement skill. To list the pros of this build, I wouldn't even know where to start. It comes with an amazing clear speed, boss damage and a big effective HP. Above all, it's cheap and easy to put together. It doesn't require any mandatory unique item. Now, to list the cons is the real challenge here. It's hard to find something not to like on this build. However, I would say that as most builds, this one is also vulnerable to chaos damage, unless of course you invest on chaos resistance gear. As for budget, this build is cheap. You can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 90 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. The Venom Gyre projectile already has an expansive nature for the amount of time it stays dealing damage on screen. Now, with a Deadeye that grants a lot of speed and many buffs to projectiles, the result is what you're seeing on this tier 16 gameplay. The boss damage is also a 10 out of 10. You can use Ball Venom Gyre to instantly have 50 stacked projectiles and delete bosses with an amazing shotgun effect using Whirling Blades on them. It's just unreal and I can't believe it wasn't nerfed again. For this survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This build counts with over 80,000 effective HP because of high armor, high evasion, spell suppression and block chance. Finally, in first place we have this amazing Cyclone of Tumult Slayer with the Duelist class. Now with the new melee buffs, many of you were asking for the update of this build, and here you go. It was an absolute delight to play this one. Now it feels really powerful all the time, almost as we used to feel on bosses with the Ancestral Totems, and now we even have the reworked banners for the extra DPS during boss fights. To list the pros of this build, I would start with its clear speed. It's just amazing to be always moving and massacring all the poor enemies on the way. The boss damage is also incredible. Once the build is done, you are going to kill even the big bosses in just a matter of seconds. And above all of that, this build is very simple and easy to put together. Now, to list the cons, I would point a few important issues, and I'd like to ask you to pay close attention here. You see, this build has a great survivability once it's done, but when you're leveling your character you need to pace your progression, because you're always very close to enemies. If you're not prepared, you are going to die. So take the extra time to pick up a few more levels before progressing to a high tier content. Another useful tip about your survivability is how to deal with stuns. On this build, you get stun immunity with cluster duels, but not everyone can afford them right away. If that's your case, or if you're just having problems with stuns sooner, do this simple trick of picking those evasion nodes and this mastery. Believe me, it helps a lot. As for budget, you can get it destroying early in-game maps with only around 90 chaos. To comfortable advanced 3 yellow maps, I recommend investing around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 6 divines. You only need one mandatory unique item for this build, the Stampede boots that guarantee that your movement speed will always be 150% of its pace. This means that the downside of Cyclone of Tumult will mean absolutely nothing to us. For clear speed, I'll give it 9 out of 10. Cyclone never stops moving and have a huge area of effect, so you can farm your maps without the need to stop for casting or anything like that. It's just awesome and very satisfying. The boss damage is just amazing and deserves 10 out of 10. When this build is done, you're going to easily achieve over 15 million DPS that is more than enough to destroy bosses in just seconds. For this survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This build achieves almost 80,000 effective HP because of high armor, evasion, spell suppression, fortify and even some instant life leech. Now, with the huge arrow effect from Cyclone of Tumult, you don't even need to stay very close to enemies on endgame, what gives you even more survivability. And that's it for today, guys. What did you think about those boss killer builds? Please take a second to tell me in the comments and leave a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing day, and don't forget to keep building!